Where is Corbin Johnson? The 18-year-old's parents say they dropped him off last week at a job interview.
So I want to do a caution to all current job seekers. Something happened to me about 2 months ago.
My interview was not at night. My interview was not in Florida. My interview was in Chicago in broad daylight in Starbucks right downtown. So this is how I know it's human trafficking.
Because something like this just recently happened to me a month ago. If you apply on Indeed, it's dangerous.
I ran out on a job interview today. I'm going to tell you why.
It kind of makes me think of this interview that my daughter literally just went on last week.
Where is Corbin Johnson? The 18-year-old's parents say they dropped him off last week at a job interview and they never saw him again. Now, if you're thinking maybe the teenager just ran away, Jacksonville police say they don't think so. Joy's here now with what's become a painful mystery for a local family. Joy?
Yeah, Tarek, imagine being Corbin's parents. Tonight, this gathering of about 50 people, including the local community advocacy group, Mad Dads, are asking for your help finding this family's son. Looking for answers and to alleviate their anxiety, 18-year-old Corbin Johnson's parents turn to people they know and prayer.
Lord, this mother's heart is grieving.
Gathering with the community advocacy group, Mad Dads, friends, and family at this Northside Vigil, you can see the anxiousness in their faces. Corbin's parents say they have no idea where their son is after his friends called looking for him too.
And they were saying he's missing. They haven't heard from him, and it's not normal for Corbin. Corbin is going to text me, he's going to FaceTime me, he's going to call me, and it's been 5 days, and that's not like Corbin to do that.
Corbin's dad tells us he dropped his son off last Wednesday at 5 p.m. for a job interview. Shortly after, another family member returned Corbin to his mother's Northside home around 9:30 that night. They say their son got into a white car and left.
That was the last time we talked to him. I texted him that next morning around 8:39 because he didn't get the job to see how he was doing. I never did get a response.
The site of this vigil, a convenience store at the intersection of Harts Road and Dunn Avenue near I-95, is the place family says Corbin was last seen. His parents told police they were constantly concerned about the friends Corbin had. But in their report, Jacksonville police say Corbin has never been missing before. Now his parents hope you can help.
It's a lot of our young men that's missing, dying for no reason. Let's come together as a community, man. And if anybody know anything, please call JSO, call me, call somebody that you know. We just want to find our son right now.
Again, police are investigating this as a missing persons case. So take a good look. Corbin Johnson has a tattoo you can see on his neck of the letter U. Police say he also has his mother's name, Melissa, tattooed on his left arm and the name Jordan on his chest. His parents say their son often hung out with friends on the city's east side of town. So if you know anything about his disappearance, a reminder, you can call Crime Stoppers and give your information anonymously.
Now, I told y'all I would keep searching into this story, and like I shared in that original video, I have not seen any credible sources really reporting on the 17 missing people that allegedly went missing in Atlanta, and also the claims that a teenage girl went missing after a job interview. Now, from what I'm seeing, I suspect that we are in a game of telephone where folks are trying to report on things that have already happened in the past and also recent stories of strange and potentially dangerous interviews. Now, unfortunately, the story of Corbin, which was from 2023, ultimately he was found unalive. And I do want to point out that in the reporting, it was not saying that he went to a job interview and then was unseen right after that, but after the interview, he did not get the job, and then after he went missing. This was reported to be after an Amazon job interview. Now, there are some real dangers with scammers posting fake job sites, though not as common in the United States. There's a particular situation that's happening, and you're going to see that later in the video. But for now, listen to these stories of people in the United States talking about their strange and potentially dangerous situations after they went to a job interview that they found and applied to via a job advertisement online.
Caution to all current job seekers. Something happened to me about 2 months ago that I was debating on talking about. I haven't told most of my friends, that was extremely terrifying. So I quit my job about 2 months ago. So a little background about me: I went to Old Miss. I've had about 8 years of experience in relationship management, working with companies, really big companies, Google, etc., a lot of other tech companies. And when I quit the current company I was at, I just thought, okay, I can just find another job on LinkedIn. It'll be easy. I didn't realize that there are people on LinkedIn that are targeting to human traffic people. So just to give you a little idea of what happened to me, I talked to a recruiter on the phone. This company seemed legit. And then the company I'd be working for was a subsidiary company, so a company under them. And it was in the media field. And I was, interviewing for a lot of different places, so I wasn't paying attention as much as I probably should have as to asking questions up front. But the recruiter, after our initial interview, said, the head of the department would love to meet you. Would you mind meeting at a place about 45 minutes away, so Long Beach? Because if she lived in LA, I lived here. It was in between, so I thought no problem. Obviously I needed a job. So fast forward, I'm beginning to think, okay, this is kind of weird. Like my intuition, I was beginning to think something was a little off. So right before the interview, I messaged the recruiter and I said, hi, can you please send me the address of the corporation in Irvine? And she said she didn't know it. So flag number 1. 2, on my own, I couldn't find the office that I would be going to, which was weird, but I thought, okay, maybe it's brand new, maybe they're starting out. I just didn't think anything of it. So I end up going to meet up with, the head of this department. And right when I met her, I felt like there was something off. She wasn't asking me any questions about my resume, any KPI questions I was asking her. Just something felt very off. And
thank you, Glenn. May is Older Americans Month, and new data shows more seniors are being targeted by scammers.
Indeed, because I just seen this other lady TikTok who was talking about how she had an interview and this guy had called her for an interview at like 7 a.m. for a warehouse cleaning position. I have a similar story. My interview was not at night. My interview was not in Florida. My interview was in Chicago in broad daylight in Starbucks right downtown. So this is how I know it's human trafficking, and I'm just going to shorten it up because I don't even want to be long-winded with it. So the interview has said that the post on Indeed has said that they were immediately hiring and they had weekly pay. At the time, I really needed a job. So I was like, hey, perfect. That's the perfect job for me. So I had got the interview, and I think I scheduled one for the following day. So I went to the Starbucks. There was already a lady interviewing this gentleman ahead of me, and the interview was very long-winded, and I had waited for at least 30 minutes for him to finish up his interview. In my head, I'm thinking, oh, this is a little bit unprofessional, but in my head, I'm also thinking it is weekly pay, so what can you expect from this type of job? So boom, it gets to my interview and she asked me all these questions, yada yada, like, do you have a car? Do you have kids? Yada yada yada. And she asked me all these like invasive questions, giving me all these scenarios and whatnot. And I ended up not getting the job, but I don't think I got the job because I wasn't qualified. I think I got the job because I was too smart. She was asking me a lot of scenario questions, and I can't really get too deep into it right now because I'm kind of occupied making some moolah. But yeah, she did ask me some like invasive, like not too invasive, but just like, oh, what would you do in this type of scenario? What would you do in this type of scenario? Blah, blah. And me, I'm smart, I'm quick-winded. So you are, no, I'm just, oh, okay, blah, blah. But I'm still trying to get the job at the end of the day. So I don't mind answering the questions. And it wasn't like invasive like my personal life, but she was definitely asking these questions to see what type of mindset you had. And then also it was weekly pay and it was immediately hiring, and they could tell from those just two demographics right there that you might be a little desperate for cash. And I was desperate for cash at the moment. You know what I'm saying? I don't scam or nothing. I get legit W2. So yeah.
Hey y'all, I want to be a warning to somebody, multiple people. I hope this video gets far out there because I literally just watched this video of this lady saying if you apply on Indeed, it's dangerous and be careful. And it literally sent chills down my spine because something like this just recently happened to me a month ago. I'm gonna explain. The world that we living in right now, you cannot trust nobody. You got to be looking over your shoulder constantly because you just never know what can happen in a split second. I have been applying to Indeed for many years now, and Indeed have been easily to get me a job. Well, it's been really hard to get a job recently because maybe in Florida, there's so many people moving to Florida and in my area especially. But that's neither here nor there. That's besides the point. The point is to make sure you are being careful. I applied on Indeed and I had received a phone call from this guy. I'm a D&D warrior. My phone always on D&D, but this day my ringer was actually on, and I don't answer unknown spam calls because, you get a lot of spam calls or scam calls. But this particular day, I was answering my phone for all unknown numbers just in case it was a job. Okay, so boom. The man on the other end of the phone is like, hello, yada, yada, yada. I'm such and such. You applied on Indeed, and we would like to offer you a position. Would you like to come in for an interview? Of course. Mind you, this is a normal Thursday that he called me, and I was going to do the interview on a Friday. It was kind of sketchy to me because he asked me, can I come in at 7 at night? 7 p.m. On top of meeting him at 7 p.m., it was just supposed to be me and him doing the interview in a random warehouse. That threw me off. So I just go along with it because it was a housekeeping position, and I've done housekeeping in a warehouse before. But I just went along with it. I said, okay, I'll meet you. Sounds good, yada, yada, yada. He gave me his number. I'm supposed to meet him the next day. Okay, so boom, the next day come. I was perfectly fine up until it was about 5 p.m. And I I was feeling really eerie. I was all of a sudden not feeling good. And I was just like shaking the feeling or whatever. I give my kids kisses, hugs, or whatever, my usual when I'm going to an interview. And then at 6 o'clock, I get dressed. I go get in my car. And as I'm sitting in my car, I just feel real sick to my stomach, like literally. So I'm like, this got to be my intuition telling me not even to go to this interview. And I always listen to my intuition, but I always get a second opinion as well. So I sit in the car. I call my mama. I talk to my mama. My mama's like, if you feeling some type of way, don't go. That's God telling you not to go. Okay, so boom. I also called my FC because we talk about everything, and she knew I was going to this interview, and she was telling me, girl, do not go. If you feeling some type of way about meeting this man at a warehouse at 7 o'clock at night, and at the time, this was before daylight savings, it was pitch black outside. She was like, don't go. Moral of the story is I listened to my intuition. I also listened to my FC and my mama, and I just did not even much go to that interview. And I'm glad that I didn't because it was an eerie feeling. And I had got this whisper in my ear, and I know it couldn't be nobody but God. Baby, be careful. That lady said, be careful. And she's serious because I'm also telling you to be careful when you apply on Indeed because you never know who you could be running into or what can happen to you. That poor lady went to that interview at that random warehouse, and she ended up unalive in the woods. My condolences. Y'all be careful out here. It's crazy.
I ran out on a job interview today. I'm going to tell you why. I got a call yesterday around 1 o'clock. This guy was saying, hey, we want you to come in for an interview today. And he was acting like he saw my application, like I applied for this place. Because I've applied for so many different places, I'm not 100% sure. And he doesn't really give me the name of the place. Like, I'm going to text you the location. I'm like, oh, okay. And then he gets off the phone. I'm like, okay, strange. I get the location, I look it up, and I look into the company. When I finally figure, I actually had to call the guy back, and he told me what the place was. He's like, oh, sorry. It got bad reviews back in 2016, 2017, this place, and it was a scam. All these guys, I'm like, but there's not been anything recent, so I don't know. So maybe I shouldn't have went in the first place, but I did. Walked in, sketchy. I'm like, okay, I think I was right. I didn't run out right away, because the guy was basically eyeing us because it was me and two other people that were signing these job applications. And my thinking is, okay, I didn't apply for this place because why are you asking for a job? Like, why are you asking us to sign these job applications? Also included is give us a social security number. Give us your social security number. I'm like, no. So when he said to me, when you finish your application, I'll give you an interview on the spot. So my thinking is, I'm not going to get done first. These two other people have been here for the last couple of minutes or so because they got here early, I guess. I don't know, because they're halfway through their stuff. So I'm going to wait. So the girl goes in first to finish her application first. He doesn't shut the door because we're in a hallway and he's in a small room right there. He doesn't shut the door. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to leave right now because I was going to leave when he shuts the door. But he didn't, so I'm going to listen in on what he's going to say. So when he's talking, this other guy who was signing came back from the bathroom, and I looked over like, hey, did you apply for this place? He's like, I don't think I did. Like, I'm not really sure. And I'm like, why would they ask for this application if we did, which means we didn't? And why are they asking for a social security number? I know some places do, but not a lot of places do right out the gate when you're applying for a place. And then he looked down, he signed his. I'm like, I don't know, man. And then once the guy said exactly what I read online in terms of what the company is, I turned to the guy and I'm like, dude, I'm out of here. I've heard this is a scam. They got a lot of bad reviews online. I'm out. And I ran out the door. Some people may say, you should have never went in the first place. You should have left as soon as you felt sketchy. I should have, but I wanted to see how it played out because I wasn't sure because I've been trying to find a job for so long. But yeah, sketchy.
So what the guy mentioned before, a job that you do not recall applying to and you cannot find your application, is automatically likely a scam, right? And then also, anytime that a company, in air quotes, is asking for your social security number upon an initial interview, that's a red flag as well. So with the recruiting and HR world, we really don't need a social security number until we are hiring you and we're actually going to run a background check and we're needing to complete things like an I-9 form, for example. So that's automatically a red flag. Now, what you're seeing on the screen right now is a Reddit post, and this is someone just posting a question. Is this really a good job opportunity, or someone is trying to lure me into human trafficking? They say this is happening from the last week to today. Last week, someone entered in contact with me via text message claiming to be a recruiting agency, and they saw my profile on the website that I actually have a profile on. And the company they work with liked me and invited me to a call. They also asked me if I was open for international opportunities. But on the day of the call, no one showed up, and I just assumed they found someone else. So this week on Tuesday, another person from the same company contacted me saying the name of the first person and asking me if Person 1 talked to me about a job opportunity in UAE. I said no, and we arranged a time yesterday, but they didn't call again. And today, they actually called me and told me about the job. To work in Ras Al Khaimah on a gym that is somehow linked to the government because the city is very young, has a lot of foreigners, and is pretty active, so the government did this thing to kind of bring more people in. They would pay for me the tickets to have me go to UAE, the documents that would need for me to go there. And the place I would be staying for the first month until I got my payment, around $3,000, and I would sign a contract when I got there. They also made it seem like all of the candidates for this job are women. I got red flags since the start. This is all too weird for me. My CV, or resume, has absolutely nothing special, a 2-year health gap before COVID, and this recruitment just picked me out of nowhere. I've never applied to their services, so I'm scared that me being paranoid, I can lose a good opportunity or something really bad can happen to me if I accept. Am I being crazy? Anyone else got opportunities like this, or is someone actually trying to lure me into human trafficking? I forgot to mention a couple things. Company seems legit. They have LinkedIn, all the employees look like real people, and the social media also looks like it's an actual company. Edit. They're saying thank you for all the comments and advice. She decided to cancel the conversation. Now, we did a little show of a scammer that was trying to lure me into a job, and they had a website, but when you looked at the website and you looked at the people, they were fake. We had a scenario where someone lured me on LinkedIn, and they had a profile, right, that they had snatched from someone else. They stole someone's picture, and they were portraying that they were a recruiter at a company, but when you really looked at their profile, this person was based in Nigeria. Right? So there are always tells. If you are interested in that video, I will have a link somewhere in this video. But I want to highlight this because I want to move on to another story. Now, I'm not going to read this full article. I will link this into the comment section or the about section. But this was a post by the New York Times. This is a very credible source. And this was made just last year in 2024, the fall. The title, Lured by a Promising Job, He Was Forced to Scam People. This is another thing that the FBI has been tracking, right? That people are luring others using job advertisements. Now, this is about a Ugandan man named Jalil Muyeki. He traveled to Thailand for a promising job opportunity, and it was one that seemed a little too good to be true, right? We know the story. He ended up being trafficked into cyber crime. Now, what they did, I'll just highlight the story for you. They promised this job, right? He landed the job and was actually trafficked and told that he had a debt, and to pay off his debt, that he would need to work as a cyber criminal. So he would actually scam people, oftentimes romance scam. And he ended up getting to safety and trying to go through the legal process for this. Now, if you're interested in finding out more detail, check out the full article. I will link it. But I did another deep dive on what other sources were saying about this activity. All right. Hello, lovely people. I am making a follow-up video to something that I posted recently, actually ahead of Tasha K and Tisa Tells that got a hold of this story as well. And it was the video titled, right? It was titled 17 People Missing After Indeed Job Interview in Atlanta. Now, I mentioned that video. I could not find any actual sources of this particular instance where people were making video after video after video on TikTok saying that 17 people were missing following an Indeed job interview. However, I've made multiple videos where I am talking about Indeed job scams, and they are very much real. So whether I could figure out whether this instance was real or not, I wanted to highlight that people really do need to be cautious. And something that I kept seeing on my video is that, this is stupid, who would do this, yada, yada. Well, you have to think about it. Children that are teenagers, right? So in my eyes, still very much children, whether you're 16, 17, 18, or 19, you're still seen as a child in my eyes. However, you're young. You have not gone through recruitment processes. You know that you want to make some money, and folks typically tell teenagers to go out and get a job. You go on Google, you start trying to look for jobs. You want to make the most amount of money with the least amount of experience because you're a teenager. What experience do you have? So naturally, the people that are targeted by these job ads are going to be young people, teenagers, people in their 20s, or I will say uneducated adults, right? So overall, this does happen. And I wanted to just show some proof that whether this story is accurate, whether it gets caught by news channels or not, that this type of situation could happen where you are caught up in a situation where you're applying to a job and it says something like, oh, you can make up to $200,000 a year, no experience necessary. All you need is a phone, or you know what these job ads look like. If you've ever been on Indeed looking for a job, I've been on here showing some of them. It's just a scam, but it targets a key audience. So given that it targets young people, you can see the title here. This is from NPR. This is a very credible source. In my opinion, people can disagree, but in general, I think most people will say it is credible. This is from December 10th, 2023. They shared an article, and this was online scamming industry includes more human trafficking victims, Interpol says. And when you read through here, and I did a quick search, the first paragraph says human trafficking fueled cyber fraud, which lures victims through fake job ads and forces them to work as online scammers, is becoming more prevalent across the world, according to the global crime fighting organization Interpol. The France-based group facilitates police coordination among countries. In its first operation dedicated to investigating this abuse, Interpol said it found a majority of cases existed in Southeast Asia, but scam centers used forced labor were also beginning to appear in Latin America. The human cost of cyber scam centers continues to rise. Now, this is 2023. This is from Rosemary Nalabega, Assistant Director of Vulnerable Communities at Interpol. They said this on the statement: only concerted global action can truly address the globalization of this crime trend. Okay, so, and I'm really just laughing at the amount of comments that I was seeing. This is another thing they're highlighting. This is what I just mentioned. These traffickers promise high salaries for workers who can speak English or have a technical background. But when victims arrive on their first day at work, they are transported deported to remote scam centers and forced to pay off their quote unquote debt through cyber crimes like illegal online gambling or investment schemes, as well as romance scams. So it's very interesting that one of the women that were featured in my video mentioned DraftKings, and that is a real company. However, they are in the online gambling industry. So that's very interesting that when she was talking about her daughter in that situation, a real life situation from her, as she made a TikTok story about what her daughter experienced, where her daughter went to an interview. You can check out that video to learn more about it. But they're saying that this is actually happening. The State Department report added that victims can be held against their will for months or years at a time, often with limited access to food, water, medicine, and communication. Human trafficking fueled cyber fraud took shape during the pandemic as people across the world lost their jobs and spent more time online, the report said. And someone in my comments had mentioned that they noticed that Indeed was getting worse with these instances after the pandemic, which I did see that with LinkedIn. Y'all know I used to come on here and I would talk up LinkedIn because I have gained jobs using LinkedIn, and I do still think you can find jobs via LinkedIn. I think some people can find jobs via Indeed. However, the difference is that with LinkedIn, I think they're just a bit better with catching the scammers, because there's so many recruiters that use LinkedIn and so many networked individuals that once there seems to be a scammer, and y'all remember, I actually showed someone on LinkedIn trying to scam me. But once there's someone that's caught, you can easily report that, and people are just really quick to do so. With Indeed, most recruiters are just simply not using Indeed, and therefore it's just, hey, there's less people that are going to report the activity because, one, there's not this quick network channel via Indeed where you can quickly talk to people to check, is this really you? If I have someone that's stolen my identity on LinkedIn and they want to portray themselves as me, saying they're a recruiter at X, Y, and Z company, well, you could also search to figure out, okay, let me just check and see if there's two profiles for her. And you could reach out to me and say, hey, is this job real? I would tell you, hey, no, it's not. So these things do happen. And I would say that on LinkedIn, you just have more people doing their due diligence with that. Indeed, it's just kind of the wild, wild west. Yes, you may find some opportunities on there, but you may also find a lot of really small time jobs that don't have great recruiting processes, or a lot of scams. So the point of my video was not to push any false story. I did note in that video towards the end that, listen, this is not something that I could find news articles about. And I don't think a lot of people got to that point because I know people want to quickly get a breakdown in like 5 seconds. However, I wanted to highlight the story because there are so many scams out there, and there are likely people that do go missing after trying to apply to a job online, and there's evidence of it. There's also reports from Forbes talking about job scams and the risk of job hunting. There's also, if you go to FBI.gov, there's a lot of different investigations that they have as well involving human trafficking. Okay, so you can search this stuff up yourself, of course. If you go to I'm going to actually toggle over there just to show you, because I don't want anyone to say, oh, you're just lying, or what y'all like to do. So this is FBI.gov, right? Human trafficking. Here in the United States, both U.S. residents and foreign nationals are being bought and sold like modern day slaves. I've talked about on this channel why I don't believe slavery ever went away, yet people like to say that. Traffickers use violence, manipulation, or false promises of well-paying jobs or romantic relationships to exploit victims. Victims are forced to work as, you see what's there, I'm not going to say it for YouTube, to take jobs as migrant, domestic, restaurant, factory workers with little to no pay. So there's a lot to be said with all of this. I am obviously sad to hear these type of things that are happening, but we have to realize that we have to be more cautious, and especially with young people that just don't know, you need to tell them to be cautious when they're going to job interviews. And in fact, like someone said in the other video, just go with your child to the interview. Just go, even if you're sitting in a car. Now, I don't have children, so I'm not trying to police how you manage your children or anything, but I'm just saying, why not? Just for their safety. Anyway, I have to go. I am going to talk to y'all later, and let me know what y'all think about this, of course, but I just had to highlight it because of all the commentary, and then I did see Tisa Tells and Tasha K sharing the story and comments about that, saying that it wasn't true. And I'm just like, listen, I've been in this recruiting and HR world for a long time, and this stuff actually happens. Whether that report itself and what people are talking about, whether it's true or not, this stuff is happening, and it can be tough to even get some of this stuff investigated, especially when it comes to Black and brown individuals. I'm going to leave it there. I will talk to y'all later.
I almost got human trafficked in Atlanta. Here's the story. So I think it was 2020 or 2021. It was during the pandemic, but I had went down to Atlanta to go see my friend. My best friend used to live in Atlanta. And I had got off the plane and I'm walking through the airport. And when you go to the Atlanta airport, you got to take that little train to baggage claim. Well, as I'm walking to the train, I'm seeing signs all over the airport talking about how human trafficking is on the rise in Atlanta and that you should be alert. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if they got signs in the airport, this must be really serious. So I get my luggage and then I'm walking over to the Uber pickup spot. And if you know the Atlanta airport, you have to walk through the Grand Canyon, climb Mount Everest, and take a kayak down Niagara Falls to get to the Uber Lyft pickup area. So I'm at the spot and I'm on my phone trying to call an Uber. And as I'm doing this lady gets out of a car, walks up to me, and offers to take me to my destination. And I'm like, oh no, I'm good. I'm gonna just, take an Uber. And she was like, oh no, you don't have to worry about all that. I'll do it for cheaper, yada, yada, yada. And I'm just thinking to myself, I just passed 17 signs warning me about human trafficking. And then all of a sudden, this stranger just pulls up on me at the airport, offering to drive me somewhere. No, I'm not doing that. And I told her straight up. I said, miss, they got human trafficking signs everywhere. And not for nothing, this just feels real suspicious. Would you believe that lady had the nerve to get offended? She was like, they don't want people like you. They only want young girls and virgins. So then in response, I got offended because who the hell told you I wasn't a virgin? Do I have whore written on my forehead? How dare you disrespect me like that? But she clearly was not expecting that kind of response. So she just sucked her teeth and went on to the next victim. And somebody